Welcome to the Jones Zone, a podcast by Darryl and JJ Jones.
And is it fair to say there's literally hundreds or thousands of different types of mold?
Gosh, I feel like there's thousands. And I feel like there's just different strains constantly being discovered and the effects being studied. And it's just like the common cold virus. You'll have one that morphs with another, and then a new strain is born. I don't want to say there's only five that you have to be worried about.
That's what I was going to ask you, because there are some molds that aren't going to harm
like
people.
black mold. Yeah, black, white, brown mold, and they have their scientific names that I'm not even going to try to pronounce because I butcher them every time, but they have the mildews. And it's not necessarily because, oh, hey, that's black mold. That's the one that's killing you. It could be a combination of two lesser strands, but you have those strands in your house. But because of how your body's reacting to it, it's just as harmful as if it was black mold. If your body cannot process the exposure to this, you have to completely eliminate it from your environment in order for you to heal from it.
But mold needs water to grow, though. Is that fair to say?
Mold needs moisture.
Moisture,
Not
okay.
necessarily water. And the reason I choose those terms very different is when everyone says, oh, you need water. So you need a pipe to leak. You need a good amount of a source of water. Mold doesn't need a lot of water to grow. The dew that can come in through overcast in Orange County and then burn off. But if you do not have a good weather seal on your stucco and you're just having that constant exposure, that's enough water, moisture, plus the sunlight that can help mold grow. I do want to point out, as a water intrusion, is your garden can put you at risk for water damage.
Let me ask you this, and we'll get into how you guys remove the mold, but let's say there was a one-time spill in drywall and mold grew in there, and then through time it totally dried out. It was completely dry. Does that typically, and I don't want you to go out on the edge if you don't know for 100% certainty, but generally speaking, if that moisture was to be eliminated, it just naturally dried up because that place doesn't normally get wet. Would that mold also die? How does that work? No?
No. Mold can go dormant. Mold can sleep, but mold will move to the point where it's a living organism in that sense, where it will move, it'll feed, it'll grow. Once you have it in your home, just like water being spilled, mold is time sensitive also. The longer you leave mold unremediated, the larger of a colony you are going to have. The spores can move within a home. You could have your water intrusion in your kitchen. You have some mold underneath your kitchen sink, but you might see it unrelated then in your living room and a colony growing there too. That's because everybody has ventilation in their home to the point where we're not having cement walls where there's no air that's moving from one room to another. We do have insulation. So while the water has been turned off, the leak has been fixed. But if it was not properly dried, if it wasn't properly treated, that water and that insulation takes a while to dry, meaning you fed that source of mold continuous water and the material, the insulation and drywall, that's great food for it. You just gave it a buffet and a nice spa day, and now it's growing. It's happy. There are definitely seasons to mold. I personally don't look at it as a full month of a season or like how you look at fall, winter, and spring. California is a perfect environment for mold. You will have a cold and windy day, 60 degrees, light showers. And then California the next day will be 80 degrees, 90 degrees. We definitely live in Southern California for the weather.
So does the mold.
They love Florida. They love California. And that's a reason is because we will get a flux of weather that comes through. It puts moisture. It saturates structures. And then for a week after, we'll get back up to the 80s and 90s. And that sunlight, that it doesn't burn it, it doesn't kill it. It just gives it the environment to grow.
Are there environments where mold does not grow up? I'm thinking of Minnesota. I'm thinking of cold environments. Are there any, or maybe you can't speak to that being that you're here in California, you only deal with California.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, I kind of stick to being more of a niche. I'm a Southern California girl, so I want to know what's going to affect us here. There are areas where you could see what people think is mold is a lot of times on the outside of their roof or maybe on a pathway, and it's not mold, it's moss. it is a growth of some form or another. It does need to be removed because it can alter the structure of the roof. The shingles can become slippery and you can fall, but it's not mold. Everyone assumes that the minute they see a discoloration in a home, they're calling it mold. But yeah, no, like for us in Southern California, cement is really not an area that the mold likes. 9 times out of 10, the fronts of showers and on top of the tile is more going to be that mildew. Now, some people will say, I swear it's mold, and but mold can't grow on tile. You're right, mold will not grow on tile, but mold will grow on the drywall behind the tile. And if you have a crack in your grouting and moisture from your shower is getting in between those tiles, that's all it really takes.
Now, how does one check that? They just check for cracks because that seems
Yeah.
like I mean, gosh, you don't want to necessarily remove your whole shower just to check mold and find out you don't have it.
No, a lot of times, if you look at your shower, you're going to start seeing those little small hairline cracks at the
Hmm.
grout. You're going to start seeing them possibly in between, the tiles themselves, or if you have a bathtub and then it goes up into the tiles. A lot of times where we see the cracks is the seam that's going between the tile and the shower. You're going to see some type of visible crack, but you have to sit down and look at it. You can't just walk by it and in passing, it's just going to look like one of the lines on the tile or the grouting itself.
Maybe you get
Take a
a
look.
little, one of those the inspectors used to have. What's that
A little
called?
pen light,
Either a
magnifying
pen
glass.
magnifying glass and do your
Hmm.
review that way. It's funny. I was talking to I had a fire marshal on the show, and I was thinking about, are they going to start building houses that maybe don't burn? I mean, you think about commercial buildings. I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit off topic here, but you think about commercial buildings, and I don't know any well, very few are made of cement. They're mostly made of cement. And I guess this is probably above both our pay grade, but I was just curious if you've heard any whispers. You mentioned how mold doesn't grow in tile. I mean, and also tile doesn't burn. I wonder if are there any other substances that are being mentioned that where mold doesn't grow that could help not only against fires and mold, but fires and mold, what else can you do? But another thing, in fact, I read about shark skin, and this is probably going to go over everyone's head, including mine, but shark skin having this specific shape in it that does not allow, that's why sharks don't get plankton or whatever those things whales get, for example, or things like that. They talked about using those now at hospitals and stuff because bacteria can't grow on this surface. Any surface other than the tile that you mentioned that is something that's common to prevent, let's say, to prevent mold?
I mean, there's a lot of different factors, and I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer, I'm not anything, but I am a consumer. Two big factors really come into play when anybody's starting to do anything is the cost of something being engineered and also the comfort level. If my house was made of nothing but cement and had no insulation, is my family going to be as cold or as cool when it's 103 outside or it's dipping below, 50 degrees at night? That type of situation. So style, comfort, and cost have always been a really big factor on how we move forward in regards to a development of anything. Safety protocols are great, finding something that would completely make a structure invulnerable to fire, but does that make it invulnerable also to earthquakes and landslides? And the cost of doing that, did it just amplify building a house? And I'm pulling a number out of it. If it's building a house of 600,000 right now, and now you're making that house 100,000, are we leaving area for an affordable housing market? Is that something where
Pick your poison, I
yeah.
guess.
So it's like pick your poison. Are we going to protect against an earthquake versus a fire? Are we protecting against flood and mold versus anything else? And, demographics definitely have to play a factor because what we here in California would probably do in Southern California, Central California may not actually have the same type of exposures. They have a lot more landslides. They have a lot more flooding. Their rain saturation is completely different, but they don't have any of the coastal risks that they're looking at. And Northern California has a lot more of the fires. In California, we have three very big separate environments that's not including our desert region at all. For us, the state of California, they try to turn around and tell us, oh, you have to build with this material. Which demographic are you really not idolizing, but really being able to be the most supportive to without taking in consideration so many others. And then I know that for me, California is very different when it comes to atmosphere versus Seattle and Washington, Oregon, then going over to maybe even Florida. Those are high moisture versus the freezing temperatures that come through like Montana and even on the East Coast in New York. I don't personally worry about frozen pipes.
Yeah.
They definitely have to. I don't have to worry about hurricanes and tornadoes, but somebody else does. So the way I construct my home is going to be very, very different from how they have to or they need to. And I was just reading about the new building requirements that are going to be hitting certain parts of Florida where the housing and the dwelling has to be raised so many feet. I believe it's 16 to 18 feet now. And it's to the point where that's so if the water floods from a hurricane and comes inland, none of the actual dwelling has been touched. So now they're creating 2, 3, 4-story houses. But the first complete, I guess you would say, story is a carport, if that. But that's unique to Florida.
So there's tile, though. You mentioned in terms of tile, you got to check the grout areas. I'm guessing cement also has a hard time cultivating, or it's impossible for mold to grow in cement. Is that fair to say as well?
It's not impossible, but it's one of the harder and harsher for it to connect because you're really looking for a porous material. Drywall and insulation, that's the best.
It was made for growing mold almost.
It's made, it's like ideal. It's Candyland for mold. Your baseboards are amazing for it. And fabrics, mold loves fabrics. It could start at the bottom of your closet and you'll notice it and that's how a couple of ladies who've called me and asked for help is I took out a pair of my winter boots and I've got mold on it. And I found mold in the back of my closet because I was like, no, that definitely happens because it's an area of your house and your home that you don't sit down and look at. You put something in the back of the closet, you think, hey, I put it away. Not that you have to look at your back of the closet to see if, hey, was there a water leak?
That was a matter of she just had some wet boots that she put back there? Is that what more than likely was the case?
No, she actually had a small water leak coming off of her supply line going to the bathroom next door and her closet connected to the bathroom.
Are there any poor construction designs that tend to lead to water intrusion? So, for example, when buildings and houses look so different each decade, I'm just curious on any designs that may help mold grow or that you've seen. And maybe you haven't, maybe no.
No. And the reason is every house is susceptible. What we have found, though, when it's the construction of a home, is the material of the pipes used throughout the home. So is it galvanized steel versus copper versus PVC piping?
Or flex. Flex is a new thing.
Yeah. Or is it flex? And each has their strong components, each has their vulnerabilities, but each has their lifespans too. I kind of laughed because one homeowner said, well, I have a lifetime warranty. And I said, okay, that's great that you have a lifetime warranty. When was this lifetime warranty? Oh, it was 35 years ago. I'm the original owner. And I'm like, well, that's congratulations. I love original owners. It's, I can't stop. I was like, I did want to say, I'm like, unfortunately, well, I'm not going to speak if this is going to be covered under warranty or not, but most lifetime warranties is the lifetime of the product, not your life.
Not the lifetime of a fly, which I think is 17 days. Go ahead.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
So it's really good to understand. And when you're going into any type of remodel, construction, fix, or you're buying something new, understand what's the lifetime of this particular product that I'm doing and understanding that, hey, I'm buying something and in 10 years, I may need to either have it replaced or serviced. It's a big thing. I personally have a home that's in the 1970s. We're going to be looking into getting the whole house repiped, not because we are showing any significant water damages or anything like that, but we are starting to water pressure gets slow a little bit because there's a buildup on the pipe. And if you scrub too much on an older pipe, you're going to crack or pierce it. So maintaining the health of my home is like, hey, I'm going to go and take a look at my pipes and see about replacing them.
Speaking of pipes, we mentioned, I think, 4 different types pretty quickly. There's possibly more. I was actually surprised to find out from my plumber about copper. Copper used to be kind of the creme de la creme of what you wanted. You wanted copper. But from what I heard, and I wonder if you could speak to this, that the way that they're treating water nowadays with the different minerals or whatnot, that it's actually copper now is getting hurt or getting more holes than used to, number one. And then number two, you also mentioned there's different levels, degrees of copper. In other words, meaning there's thicker copper that, you're going to really probably not get leaks for quite some time, maybe 2 lifetimes, whatever a lifetime is. And then there's a thinner copper. He had mentioned that possibly it's the thinner copper because a lot of builders will use the least expensive material. Do you have any knowledge about that, or can you speak to that at all?
No. And I won't even go into it because there's just so many little caveats of they went with a thinner copper because, like you said, the price on the margin of doing that repair work, repiping, or the original construction of the home, where they save on where one area they use the budget on another area. To be honest, I haven't found a pipe out there that is completely invulnerable to any type of damages or leaks. We have the ability to prolong it. We have the ability to protect against it. But there hasn't been an impenetrable force where water and corrosion don't play a factor on the pipe itself. It just may take 30 years, or it could take 10 years, or it could take 7 years or 5 years. So talking with the plumber on which pipe is the best and how to do it, they're going to look at your situation of what your water quality is, where your supply line is coming from, where's your aqueduct. But it's also going to look at your environmental component. Are you closer to the ocean? Are you closer to the mountains? Where's your home? And a plumber, I love that these guys, they're so understated sometimes. But when they're factoring, they're coming in and they're saying, hey, this is the best fix that for your particular house. It's like they're taking all of these factors in. And some explain them a lot better than others. The plumber that has 45 years of experience and he's just saying, hey, this is what you need to do and this is how much it's going to cost. He's already taken all these factors in. And it's just that's their niche. That's their specialty. So I don't want to encroach on that. I don't want to talk about that because God knows I might be wrong. I just haven't found a pipe that can't break yet.
Well, it's funny. That was a great answer, by the way, because I'm sitting here chopping on the bit, thinking to myself, when recently took a parent to the doctor and then the doctor gave options. It's nothing serious. My dad said, well, what would you do, Mr. Doctor? And I was going to say that to you, but you basically answered that question. In other words, you said you're get your pipes repiped, but just because you're going to do it doesn't necessarily mean it's best for everybody, whatever it is you use, based on the fact that there's a lot of other factors that may cause maybe a thick copper to be better than a flex or whatnot.
The size of your home, your occupancy of your home, how many bathrooms you have, what type of water heater you have, like all of these are huge, factors on how your project's going to proceed. Also, your budget type of situation. Next, they're going to be offering, hey, gold lining. I don't know. How fancy do you want your plumbing to be? I have a home that's from the 1970s, and before we start going down the repiping aspect and everything like that, we also have to do asbestos testing. Major remodels on this home. It's a 2-story home. So all of that plays a big factor on the reason that we decided to do the repiping as one of our major home projects is the capacity for our home, and the water leaves a lot of open vulnerabilities. And we want to make sure that we have the pool, we have, that kind of stuff. And we want to make sure that all of the upgrades that we want to do in the house, the structure, the skeleton of our home can really support anything that we do on the outside.
Speaking of pools, that's just occurred to me. Is it possible that the leak could be a pool? You mentioned pools. So there's a leak in the pool, not the house. And then that mold indeed is just blowing into the house. Is that making sense at all?
It does make sense. A lot of times you're not going to find mold within a pool. You're going to find algae and a different bacterial.
I should have said pool equipment. Sorry.
Pool equipment. Again, you're not, majority of the times, you're not going to find mold. You're going to find an algae. You're going to find other bacteria. The chemicals that are used to treat a pool, usually the chlorine and, everything else, the acid levels, because of those type of cleaning aspects of it, it definitely can reduce any type of exposure there for the bacteria. The area that I see that it's pool related, but it is not the pool, is 9 times out of 10, you have a pool house or you have something where you store all of your equipment for the pool, your rafts, your floaties, towels, all the fun stuff on the side. And if you're anything like my kids are, and I say, hey, go clean up the deck, put everything away, I'm glad you guys had a fun day of swimming. They don't wait for it to be dry before they put it away. So you're taking water while it is treated and you're just putting it into a structure without it drying. You could have mold grow out of that because it's now just put in an incubator and good luck. That's why you'll sometimes hear people say, oh, I had mold in the pool house or I had mold in my pool shed. And I discovered it when we were going to open the pool for the season. It's because they did everything at the end of the season. They packed everything up, they put everything away. They probably haven't touched it for months. And whatever moisture was captured within those craft capabilities, the noodles. I love the noodles. I love floating on the noodles, but they don't dry very well. So we threw it all in the shed, the pool house, and what ended up happening is you open the door and it smells musty. You open the door and you're like, oh, something went bad.
What could be another remedy besides the obvious of drying everything off? I mean, that's pretty much the reason people have fans in their bathrooms or airflow ventilation. That was the word I was looking for. How about the landscaping? Is there drainage that could help or help prevent or help grow mold?
Yes, yes. I can't say this yes enough. So one of the big vulnerabilities that we're seeing, less in newer construction, but definitely in the older construction, is there are flower beds or gardens that were planted right up against the stucco of the house. While there is still the moisture and a vapor barrier that was installed and they dug out and they created everything, again, lifetime of that vapor barrier is not necessarily your lifetime or the full lifetime of the home. Like, so with that being said, you got to think about it. How often do you water your flowers or your lawn? Okay, now your house is having that direct amount of moisture on that daily of a basis. This isn't rainy season, it's not a flood or anything like that, but it's having a continuous wear. Stucco can definitely break down after a good amount of time. That waterproofing can too. So as you're watering your flowers with this great potting soil and fertilizer and has enzymes and power to grow, we love those key phrases when we're looking at our dirt, to say the least. What you're really looking at is you are feeding mold. So now you have a very possible slight penetration coming from the exterior of a home into the interior of your foundation or the interior of your subfloor. So this is not visible to you because it's underneath your lawn, it's underneath your flowers, and it's underneath your floor. So you have your garden, and then you have your house. It's penetrating here. And when it penetrates, it's then going to spread to all of your subfloor. Your subfloor is all wood, drywall. It's going to grow and it's going to have the heat of the home as it's being expelled. And you're just going to be living in it and have no idea about it. A good landscaper will turn around and say, hey, you can definitely have a garden in front of your home. We want that curb appeal. We want that beauty in our life. But let's create a 6 to 8 inch cement barrier. Let's build that out for you. They can use it with brick or center block.
Away from the house or up the house or below the dirt?
Below the dirt. So between the house and where you want to have any type of garden.
Weep screen, is that because I know houses have what's called weep screens. I'm not sure. I don't expect you to be familiar with the weep screen, but I think that is possibly one of the things too that they do. But tell us more about what they can do.
If you look down and you're looking down off your porch or going up your sidewalk and you're looking at your house, in your house you see dirt up against your stucco. People can plant waterproofing and they could put shields there. They can do some type of barrier. But you are essentially still putting a raincoat on your house and hoping that it's going to last 50, 60, or 70 years. I know that Orange County and the surrounding areas were booming and were building houses in 2000s and 2014s and stuff like that. But most of the homes that I've seen are 1980s, 1970s, 1990s. We're in 2024. That garden's been there since the original home. And I'm pretty sure no one's replaced that waterproofing. So as you're tending to this beautiful garden, you're just adding additional moisture and constantly attacking that waterproofing. So there are landscape artists and engineers that actually can come in and say that you still want to have your garden there. You still want to do that. What we're going to do though is create a boundary between the dwelling structure and your garden. And this is how we're going to do it. And they create these planter boxes. And the boxes themselves are not wood. They're not biodegradable. So they are not going to be saturated with water and deteriorate on you. They're going to help create that buffer for you. I tell people if you have a planter box and it is installed on your window, they look like these cute little like herb gardens and they're on windows and that type of situation. Remove them.
There you go.
Separate your house from constant water, fertilizer, moisture. Give your structure a little bit more protection. And I know, hey, I want to open my window and smell the flowers. I love that idea too. But I don't love the idea of, hey, you have to replace your drywall. You have to replace your window. Your flooring is now going to come up because the mold traveled from the flower box through the window and it's completely saturated your internal structure.
Wow, I would never have thought of that. That's some good advice.
And what I want to add caveat into this is for every homeowner who is looking at it and looking at their policy and they currently have a home, they currently have a garden, ask your agent, hey, does my homeowner's insurance cover groundwater intrusion from the outside in? It's not storm related.
Insurance agent, not real estate agent, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Insurance agent. Yeah. Ask your insurance agent, hey, what's my coverage look like if this was to happen? I think a good 99% of the people would be absolutely shocked.
That it's not covered. I had someone tell me once that insurance companies, and no offense to insurance companies, but they would come out. They're basically looking for ways or reasons why they don't have to pay for the money because of the homeowner's error and or lack of keeping things up. Is that fair to say? Have you seen that?
I have. The people that I've come in contact with in this industry, I have to say, I've come in contact with the best of the best, the people that are on the side of insurance and adjusters that have the hearts to understand that, someone's home is their sanctuary and all they want to do is put it back together and be able to live in peace. And as a homeowner of a remediation company, being able to talk to the insurance agent and come to compromises to, hey, this is how we're going to remediate, not compromising our standard because we have a living standard and we're going to protect our homeowners too, how to charge the insurance and how to make sure that the claim is really getting maximized on the homeowner's benefit without it really being shot down. But one of the big reasons that I tell people, have your home serviced by licensed technicians. If those licensed technicians show your owner responsibility of maintaining your home. One of the big issues with agents is owner fail to maintain maintenance. Just going in and cleaning does not maintain maintenance. While we love a clean home, it doesn't factor in there are vulnerabilities. So when you go and have it serviced once a year and you're showing, hey, here's my receipts. This is the last time he was here. They serviced, nothing was wrong type of situation. Having a licensed plumber come in and doing your wobbly toilet and the wax ring shows, hey, I did my due diligence. I noticed a problem. I got it fixed. So 6 months down the line, when they say, oh, your pipe leak, that's because of your toilet. You're like, no, I got it serviced. I got it taken care of. And having a good relationship with your agent goes a long way because you're able to really talk to a person and understand the terminology in an insurance policy. What is the difference between groundwater and stormwater? What's gray water versus clear water or black water? Because that's the terms that they use in insurance. And that's terms from my industry. But that's not a term that a new homeowner is going to really understand. And a little plug for my business, I got to say, is we actually do free inspection and education seminars to homeowners. So a homeowner who would like me to, or my technicians, to walk the home and say, hey, where are my vulnerable spots? Okay. Hey, can you take a look at this and tell me if this is water damage? Or, hey, I need help with learning how to shut off my main water valve. The new homer, when I bought my first new house, I knew none of that. We go and do a free, quick, 30-minute tutorial on, hey, this is your home. Let's take a look. And this is how to keep proper maintenance records and information like that. And we do that to help build trust within the community.
This is a whole nother show we're going to have to do. Teaser alert. So be up for this next show. So let's do a quick overview. The most common spots, you're looking at flower beds. That's a thing. The roofs, any drains, anywhere there's plumbing, any major appliances. I think I mentioned 5 things there. Would that be the top 5? Fair to say, more than likely.
For water intrusion, yes. And then I'm going to add a couple in just for Southern California residents that are hobbyists like myself. Any type of cold plunge / jacuzzi. If you have a spa or sauna installed in your home, make sure you're having that regularly serviced. And aquariums and habitats for maybe reptiles. You have to keep it moist and warm. Well, what else likes it moist and warm?
Wow. All right. Well, this has been great. This has been a really good wealth of knowledge for homeowners, and I think they're going to get a lot out of this. Leslie, and I meant to bring this up, this Waterman. When I first met you, I thought, wait a minute, you're in leak detection and your last name is Waterman?
Yes.
I think that's just fantastic. So Leslie Waterman with Puro Clean. Leslie, I have a feeling we're probably going to do a couple more shows because you've got a wealth of knowledge. But if folks want to get a hold of you, what is the best way to contact you?
Our tagline is we're the paramedics of property damage. So we do run 24 hours, 7 days a week. Our best phone number is our office line, which is constantly manned, 657-210-0700.
Say that again for our slower listeners. That's me.
657-210-0700. And call anytime, day or night. We will definitely help you out.
And you talked about multiple things that could go wrong. Our next show is going to be about, this one was about water intrusion and mold. Our next show is going to be about what?
Well, if I really had to go down the road of helping new homeowners, creating yourself an emergency service plan.
Okay, we're going to talk about that next time. So everybody, we're going to sign off. Leslie's got a job. She's got to go work. And actually, so do I. So thanks again for watching. And please, if you have not subscribed. There's a lot of great future shows that we have. And actually go back and look at our previous shows that we've recorded. We've got a lot of great topics about home ownership and everything having to do with real estate. So this is Darryl Jones with the Darryl and JJ Jones team signing off, along with Leslie Waterman with Puro Clean. And again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and take care. Look for us next week. Thank you.